Samuel Walker was an ordinary man living in an extraordinary situation. At the age of 72, he had raised his family with the values of humility, kindness, and resilience. His life had been marked by hard work as a carpenter, and now, in his retirement years, he devoted most of his time to his only grandson, Liam. Liam was the light of his life, an 8-year-old boy with an infectious curiosity and a passion for cars. But something was changing. For the past few months, Samuel noticed that Liam's energy was fading. What began as small bouts of fatigue turned into constant hospital visits. The diagnosis came like a thunderstorm on a sunny day. Liam had cancer. Not just any cancer, but an aggressive one that had spread too far. Samuel sat beside Liam's hospital bed as the doctor delivered the crushing news. "There's nothing more we can do," the doctor said softly, with a look of sympathy that barely masked the hopelessness of the situation. "The cancer has reached a terminal stage. We can manage his pain, but we can't cure him." Samuel, though used to enduring life's challenges, felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath his feet. How could life be so cruel? Liam was so young, so full of dreams. Tears welled up in Samuel's eyes, but he held them back for his grandson's sake. He looked down at Liam, who was awake but silent, and gently stroked his hair. Liam's frail body had become a shadow of its former vitality, but his eyes still sparkled with the curiosity and innocence that made him who he was. Later that evening, Samuel found himself sitting alone by the window in the hospital room, staring out into the city. His mind raced with thoughts of what to do next. It was hard to accept that time was running out for Liam. He needed to do something, anything, to make these final days special. That's when a thought came to him. He turned back to the bed and spoke softly. "Liam," he said, his voice breaking the quiet, "is there anything you want to do? Anything at all? I'll do everything I can to make it happen." Liam's small, tired face lit up with a flicker of excitement. "Anything, Grandpa?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Samuel nodded. "Anything," he promised. Liam's eyes wandered around the room as if searching for an idea. After a few moments, he smiled. "I have 10 things I want to do, Grandpa. Can we try to do them all?" Samuel smiled back, though his heart ached knowing the circumstances. "Tell me your 10 wishes," he said, grabbing a notepad from the bedside table. Liam thought for a moment, then began to list them. The first one was simple. "I want to see the ocean, Grandpa. I've never been to the beach." Samuel wrote it down carefully. He had no idea how much time they had left, but he was determined to make it happen. He had always taught Liam that the value of life wasn't in its length, but in how it was lived. And now, that belief would be put to the ultimate test. Liam continued listing his wishes, each one filled with the innocent desires of a young boy who had so much left to experience. The second wish: "I want to see fireworks, like really big ones. I've never seen them up close." Samuel's hand trembled as he wrote it down, realizing how little time his grandson had to experience things most people take for granted. The third wish followed: "I want to go to the zoo and see the tigers. They're my favorite." Samuel made a mental note to find the best zoo nearby. The fourth: "I want a superhero birthday party. Can we do that, Grandpa?" Samuel couldn't help but smile. Despite everything, Liam's imagination was still alive and vibrant. He continued to listen as Liam shared more wishes, each one reflecting the boy's innocent and adventurous spirit. The night wore on, and the hospital room grew quieter, but Samuel's mind was racing. Liam had 10 wishes, and though he hadn't listed them all yet, Samuel was already planning how to make the first few come true. His grandson didn't have much time, but Samuel was going to fill each remaining day with joy, no matter what it took. The next morning, Samuel spoke with the doctors about the plan. "I want to take Liam to the ocean," he said, his voice firm. The doctors were hesitant at first. Liam's condition was fragile, and travel could be risky. But after some discussion, they agreed to let him go for a few days, as long as Samuel promised to keep Liam's health in check and stay close to medical care if needed. Samuel nodded in agreement. He would be cautious, but he wasn't going to let anything stop Liam from seeing the sea. Within a week, Samuel had arranged everything. They would travel to a nearby coastal town, one known for its calm beaches and breathtaking sunsets. Liam's excitement grew as the day approached, though his body remained weak. Samuel could see the toll the disease was taking, but he didn't let it show. For Liam's sake, he stayed strong, filling their conversations with stories of the ocean. How the waves sounded, how the sand felt between your toes, and how the seagulls circled the skies. When they finally arrived at the beach, it was everything Samuel had hoped for. The sky was clear, the ocean stretched out endlessly before them, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of salt water. Liam, seated in a wheelchair now due to his declining strength, stared out at the horizon, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Samuel knelt beside him, his heart swelling with both pride and sorrow. "I told you it would be," he said softly. Together, they sat in the sand, with Samuel holding Liam's hand as they watched the waves roll in and out. It was a moment Samuel knew he would remember for the rest of his life. For Liam, it was a fulfillment of a dream, a simple dream, but one that meant everything in that fleeting moment. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the water, Samuel glanced at Liam, whose eyes were closed, his breathing calm. He was tired, but there was a peace about him that hadn't been there in the hospital. "Grandpa," Liam said, his voice barely audible over the sound of the ocean. "Thank you for this. I'll never forget it." Samuel smiled, though his throat tightened with emotion. "Neither will I, buddy. Neither will I." The ocean was just a first wish on the list, but it had set the tone for what Samuel hoped would be a series of unforgettable experiences for his grandson. The trip to the beach had been a resounding success, filling both Samuel and Liam with memories they would treasure. But the journey was far from over. As they drove back from the coast, the car was filled with the sounds of soft music, and Liam, tired from the day's excitement, dozed off in the back seat. Samuel glanced at his grandson through the rearview mirror, a mix of pride and sadness in his heart. The first wish had been granted, and the look on Liam's face as he saw the ocean for the first time was something Samuel would never forget. Yet, he knew there were more wishes to fulfill, and time was not on their side. The second wish on Liam's list was to see fireworks, real, grand fireworks that lit up the night sky in bursts of color and sound. Liam had never experienced a proper fireworks show up close, and it was something he had always wanted. Samuel thought back to the days when he used to take Liam to small local festivals, but the fireworks displays there were modest, nothing like the spectacle Liam had in mind. This time, Samuel was determined to give Liam an unforgettable experience. As they settled back home, Samuel began planning. He learned of a large fireworks festival happening in the nearby city the following weekend, one of the biggest displays in the region. It would be perfect. The thought of seeing Liam's eyes light up as the sky exploded with color filled Samuel with a renewed sense of purpose. He made a few calls, secured tickets, and prepared for their next adventure. The day of the festival arrived, and Samuel could sense Liam's excitement. Despite his fatigue, Liam was eager to go, his eyes full of anticipation. Samuel had made sure everything was in place to accommodate Liam's condition. He had rented a comfortable space with a perfect view of the fireworks, far enough from the crowd, but close enough for Liam to see the full spectacle. That evening, as they arrived at the festival grounds, the atmosphere was electric. Families gathered with blankets and chairs. Children ran around with glowing toys, and the air was filled with the smell of popcorn and cotton candy. Liam, sitting comfortably in his wheelchair, looked around with wide eyes, taking in every detail. It was a new world for him, one filled with joy and life. A world that, for a moment, made him forget about the hospital rooms and doctors. As the sun set and darkness fell, the excitement in the air grew. Samuel kept a close eye on Liam, making sure he was comfortable while they waited for the show to begin. "Are you ready, buddy?" Samuel asked, smiling at Liam's eager expression. "I've been ready for this my whole life," Liam replied, his voice filled with childlike wonder. The first explosion of light tore through the sky, followed by a booming sound that echoed across the festival grounds. Liam's face lit up, his eyes wide with awe. The sky filled with a cascade of colors, reds, blues, greens, and golds, each firework more magnificent than the last. Samuel watched as Liam sat transfixed, his small hands gripping the sides of his wheelchair, his mouth slightly open in amazement. For those few minutes, time seemed to stand still. Liam wasn't a boy battling illness. He was just a kid watching fireworks, lost in the beauty of the moment, each burst of light reflected in his eyes. And Samuel knew that this memory would stay with him forever. He found himself blinking back tears, overwhelmed by the mixture of joy and sorrow that came with each passing moment. As the grand finale began, with the sky exploding in rapid, stunning succession, Samuel leaned down and whispered into Liam's ear. "How are you doing, buddy?" he asked. Liam's eyes never left the sky, but his voice was full of emotion. "It's more beautiful than I ever imagined, Grandpa," he said softly. "Thank you for bringing me." When the show finally ended and the sky returned to darkness, there was a sense of quiet awe over the festival grounds. Samuel wheeled Liam back toward the car, the boy still smiling, his mind replaying the fireworks again and again. "That was incredible," Liam whispered, almost to himself. Samuel smiled and ruffled his hair. "You deserve it, Liam. You deserve all the beauty in the world." Over the next few days, Liam's health fluctuated. There were moments when he seemed stronger, more energized, and others when the toll of his illness was painfully clear. Samuel stayed by his side through it all, making sure that every day counted. He often found Liam staring out the window, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about, buddy?" Samuel asked one evening as they sat together in the living room. Liam looked at him and smiled faintly. "I'm thinking about the next wish, Grandpa," he said. "The fireworks were amazing, but now I want to go to the zoo. I want to see the tigers." Samuel's heart tightened. He had known this wish was coming, and he had already started making plans. The zoo was close by, and although Liam's condition was unpredictable, Samuel was determined to make it happen. He nodded and smiled. "We'll go, Liam. We'll see the tigers." The next morning, Samuel contacted a local zoo to make special arrangements for their visit. The staff, upon hearing Liam's story, were incredibly accommodating. They arranged a private tour, ensuring that Liam would be able to see the animals up close without the strain of navigating through crowds. Samuel felt a deep sense of gratitude for the kindness of strangers, knowing that these small gestures made a world of difference in Liam's final days. As the day of their zoo visit approached, Liam seemed more determined than ever. He talked about the animals constantly, sharing little facts he had picked up from books and documentaries. "Did you know tigers can leap up to 20 feet in a single jump?" he asked one morning, his face lighting up with excitement. Samuel chuckled. "I didn't know that, but I guess we'll see it for ourselves soon." The weekend arrived, and Samuel carefully helped Liam into the car for their trip to the zoo. The boy was visibly weaker, but his spirit was strong. As they drove through the city, Samuel glanced over at Liam, who was staring out the window, his mind filled with thoughts of the adventure ahead. "We're almost there, buddy," Samuel said gently. "We'll see those tigers soon." As they pulled into the zoo parking lot, Samuel felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This was a third wish, and each one felt like a small victory in the face of so much uncertainty. He knew they had to cherish every moment, because time was slipping through their fingers faster than he could bear. Liam looked up at the entrance of the zoo with a tired but hopeful expression. "Let's go see the tigers, Grandpa," he said softly. Samuel smiled and nodded, knowing that every step they took was a precious gift. The morning of the zoo visit arrived with bright sunshine and a cool breeze. Perfect weather for an adventure. Samuel helped Liam into the car, making sure he was comfortable before they set off. Liam, though visibly tired, was brimming with excitement. The zoo was one of his favorite places. Even though he had never actually been there, He had read countless books about animals and had seen dozens of documentaries, but this was different. This was his chance to see tigers, elephants, and giraffes up close, to experience the wonder of wildlife firsthand. When they arrived at the zoo, the staff greeted them warmly, offering a private tour to ensure Liam could enjoy the day without getting too exhausted. Samuel was grateful for their kindness, knowing that every little bit of assistance made a huge difference. The zoo was vibrant and alive with the sounds of animals and the laughter of children. Liam looked around, taking it all in. His eyes lit up when they reached the tiger enclosure. "There they are, Grandpa," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "They're even bigger than I imagined." The tigers, lounging lazily in the sun, were a sight to behold. Liam leaned forward in his wheelchair, watching every movement they made. One tiger stood up, stretched, and walked to the edge of the enclosure, its powerful muscles rippling under its orange and black fur. Liam's face lit up with pure joy. "Did you know, Grandpa," he said, his voice barely containing his excitement, "that a tiger's roar can be heard up to 2 miles away?" Samuel smiled, watching his grandson come alive in a way he hadn't seen in weeks. The visit to the zoo wasn't just about the animals. It was about giving Liam a sense of normalcy, a chance to be a child again, if only for a few hours. They spent the next few hours touring the zoo, seeing the elephants, the lions, and the giraffes. Each stop filled Liam with wonder, and Samuel captured as many moments as he could on his phone, knowing these memories would be cherished long after the day was over. After a few hours, Liam's energy began to fade, and Samuel knew it was time to head home. But before they left, Liam turned to his grandfather with a tired smile. "This was amazing, Grandpa. Thank you for bringing me. I'll never forget it." Samuel bent down and hugged him, feeling a lump in his throat. "I'm glad you had fun, buddy," he whispered. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." As they drove home, Liam was quiet, his mind still buzzing with the images of the animals he had seen. But Samuel could tell that he was growing weaker. The disease was relentless. And while they had managed to give Liam these beautiful moments, the reality of his condition was always there, looming in the background. Samuel knew they had to keep going, to make every day count. And that meant fulfilling the next wish on Liam's list. The next morning, as they sat at the breakfast table, Samuel asked, "What's the next wish, Liam?" Without missing a beat, Liam grinned and said, "I want a superhero party." Samuel chuckled, knowing that Liam had always been fascinated by superheroes. "Of course, buddy," he said. "We can make that happen." And so, the planning began. Samuel enlisted the help of family and friends, calling everyone he knew to organize the best superhero-themed party anyone had ever seen. Over the next few days, the preparations came together. Costumes were bought, decorations were set up, and a cake in the shape of Liam's favorite superhero was ordered. Samuel marveled at how many people rallied to make the party special for Liam. It wasn't just about celebrating his love for superheroes. It was about showing him how much he was loved by the people around him. The day of the party arrived, and Samuel couldn't help but feel a sense of pride as he looked at the decorations. The backyard had been transformed into a superhero's hideout, complete with posters, masks, and capes. When Liam saw the setup, his eyes went wide with excitement. "This is amazing, Grandpa," he exclaimed. Samuel smiled, watching as Liam was wheeled into the center of the party, where he was greeted by friends and family all dressed as superheroes. Liam himself was dressed as his favorite superhero, a costume Samuel had secretly ordered weeks earlier. As the guests gathered around, cheering and clapping, Liam beamed with happiness. For that moment, he wasn't a boy fighting a terminal illness. He was a superhero, strong and brave, just like the characters he admired. He spent the day laughing, playing, and being the center of attention, something Samuel knew meant the world to him. As the party went on, Samuel stood back, watching from a distance. It was bittersweet. He was overjoyed to see Liam so happy, surrounded by love and laughter, but he couldn't ignore the weight of knowing that time was running out. Still, today wasn't the day to focus on that. Today was about joy, about giving Liam something he could hold on to. As the party wound down, Liam grew tired, and Samuel wheeled him back inside, helping him settle into bed. Liam's face still glowed with happiness, but Samuel could see the exhaustion creeping in. "Did you have fun, buddy?" Samuel asked as he pulled the covers over him. "It was the best day ever, Grandpa," Liam whispered. "I felt like a real superhero." Samuel kissed his forehead, feeling tears welling up in his eyes. "You are a real superhero, Liam," he said softly. "You're the bravest one I know." That night, as Samuel sat by Liam's bedside, watching him sleep, he thought about the journey they were on. Each wish fulfilled felt like a small victory, a way to push back against the unfairness of it all. But no matter how many wishes they crossed off the list, Samuel knew the inevitable was coming. Still, he promised himself he wouldn't let that stop him. They would keep going, keep fighting for every moment of happiness they could find. Liam's superhero party was a success, but as Samuel looked at the list of remaining wishes, he knew the next few would be harder to manage. Liam's strength was fading faster than Samuel wanted to admit, but they had to keep moving forward. There were more wishes to fulfill, more dreams to make come true. The next wish was already on Liam's mind, and Samuel could see it in the way his grandson's face lit up when he mentioned it. "Grandpa," Liam had said just before falling asleep that night, "I want to fly. I want to know what it feels like to be up in the sky, just like a superhero." Samuel had nodded, knowing that this would be a challenge. But if there was one thing he had learned, it was that when it came to Liam, no challenge was too big. Samuel couldn't shake the feeling of urgency after Liam shared his next wish: to fly. The idea filled him with both excitement and anxiety. Liam was getting weaker by the day, and although his spirit remained strong, his body was struggling to keep up. Samuel knew they were racing against time, but he was determined to fulfill this wish, just like the others. He had promised Liam they would see every dream come true, and he wasn't about to let him down. Flying wasn't something Samuel had ever imagined doing himself, let alone arranging for his grandson. But after some thought, he remembered hearing about helicopter rides that offered scenic tours over the city. That would be perfect. It wasn't as daring as skydiving or flying a plane, but it would allow Liam to experience the sensation of being in the air, floating high above the world. Samuel called the helicopter company, explained the situation, and they immediately agreed to help. They arranged for a private flight, making sure Liam would be safe and comfortable. The day of the flight arrived, and although Liam's energy had dipped significantly, he was visibly excited. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of anticipation and wonder. "Are we really going to fly, Grandpa?" he asked as Samuel helped him into the car. Samuel smiled and nodded. "We're really going to fly, buddy. You'll see everything from the sky, just like a superhero." When they arrived at the helicopter pad, Liam's excitement was contagious. The staff welcomed them with open arms, and they went over every safety measure to ensure Liam's comfort. The sight of the helicopter, with its sleek blades and powerful engine, mesmerized Liam. "It's amazing," he whispered, his eyes never leaving the machine. Samuel chuckled, watching the wonder on Liam's face. For a moment, he could see the old Liam, full of energy, curiosity, and life. As they boarded the helicopter, Samuel sat beside Liam, holding his hand. The pilot explained everything they were about to experience, but Liam was already lost in the moment. The blades began to spin, and soon they were lifting off the ground. Liam's grip tightened on Samuel's hand, not out of fear, but pure exhilaration. The ground fell away beneath them, and before long, they were soaring above the city. From their vantage point, the city looked like a miniature world. Tiny cars moved along streets that snaked through clusters of buildings. The river sparkled in the distance, and the sun reflected off the rooftops, casting long shadows over the landscape. Liam's eyes were wide with awe. "This is incredible," he said, his voice full of wonder. "I feel like I'm on top of the world." They spent the next 20 minutes flying over the city, and although it was a short ride for Liam, it felt like an eternity. He was entranced by the view, the feeling of weightlessness, and the hum of the helicopter's engine beneath him. It was everything he had imagined and more. Samuel watched his grandson with a mixture of pride and sadness, knowing that each of these experiences was both a gift and a reminder of how precious their time together was. As they descended back to the ground, Liam's excitement still hadn't faded. He talked nonstop about the flight, how incredible it felt to be up so high, and how it made him feel like a true superhero. "I've never felt anything like that," Liam said as they stepped out of the helicopter. Samuel ruffled his hair. "I'm glad, buddy. I'm so glad you got to experience it." But as they drove home, the excitement gradually gave way to exhaustion. Liam fell asleep in the car, his small body slumped against the seatbelt. Samuel glanced at him in the rearview mirror, his heart heavy. Every moment like this, every fulfilled wish, was a reminder that they were running out of time. Liam's energy was fading faster than Samuel had anticipated, and though they had achieved so much already, there were still wishes left on the list. The next morning, Liam woke up weaker than usual. Samuel helped him sit up in bed, offering him breakfast and trying to keep the mood light, but it was clear that the disease was taking its toll. Liam didn't say much, but Samuel could tell from his eyes that he was struggling. Still, when Samuel asked him about the next wish on his list, Liam's face lit up once again. "I want to drive a race car," he said quietly, but with that familiar spark of determination in his eyes. Samuel hesitated for a moment. This wish would be a challenge. Liam was too weak to handle the physical strain of driving a real race car, but there had to be a way to make it work. Samuel promised himself, once again, that he would find a way. He reached out to a local go-kart track that specialized in events for children. After explaining the situation, the staff agreed to create a special day just for Liam. They would let him drive a custom-built kart, modified to be as easy as possible to control, so Liam could experience the thrill of racing without overexerting himself. Samuel was overwhelmed with gratitude. Once again, strangers had stepped up to make Liam's dream come true. When they arrived at the track, the staff welcomed them warmly. They had prepared everything in advance. A special helmet for Liam, a lightweight kart, and a clear track with no other drivers to ensure his safety. Liam's eyes lit up when he saw the go-karts. "This is it, Grandpa. I'm really going to race," he said, his voice filled with excitement. Samuel helped Liam into the kart, making sure he was comfortable. The staff went over the controls with him, and although Liam was weak, his hands gripped the steering wheel with determination. As the engine roared to life, Samuel stood back, watching with a mixture of pride and emotion. Liam was about to race, and though it wasn't the high-speed adventure he might have imagined, it was a victory in every sense of the word. Liam drove slowly at first, getting a feel for the kart, but soon he was speeding around the track, his face glowing with happiness. Samuel cheered him on from the sidelines, his heart full of emotion. Watching Liam behind the wheel, smiling and laughing, made every effort worth it. Liam's joy was contagious, and for a moment, Samuel forgot about everything else, the illness, the doctors, the hospital visits. All that mattered was the sound of the engine and the look of triumph on Liam's face. After several laps, Liam slowed down and brought the kart to a stop. Samuel rushed over, helping him out of the kart and giving him a big hug. "How was it, champ?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Liam grinned up at him, breathless but exhilarated. "It was amazing, Grandpa. I felt like I was flying again, but this time on the ground." Samuel laughed, wiping away the tears that had begun to form in his eyes. "I'm so proud of you, buddy," he said softly. Liam's energy was fading fast, but the smile on his face told Samuel everything he needed to know. They had done it. They had given Liam another unforgettable experience, another wish fulfilled. As they left the track and headed home, Samuel couldn't help but think about the wishes still left on the list. Each one was getting harder to fulfill as Liam's condition worsened. But he couldn't stop now. They were on this journey together. And as long as Liam had dreams, Samuel would do everything in his power to make them come true. With the racing wish fulfilled, Samuel was beginning to feel the weight of the journey they were on. Liam's health was deteriorating quickly, and though they had managed to keep his spirits high, the reality of his condition was ever present. Every day was a gift, but it was becoming harder for Samuel to ignore the signs. Liam was more tired, slept longer, and spoke less. Yet his eyes still held that same fire, a determination to keep experiencing as much as possible, even as his body weakened. Liam's next wish was a big one, and Samuel wasn't sure how to make it happen. "I want to meet someone famous, Grandpa," Liam had said one evening, his voice quiet but firm. "Someone I admire like a hero." Samuel nodded, his mind racing as he tried to figure out who this hero could be. Liam had always been fascinated by music and had developed a deep admiration for a popular musician who had been making waves in the country, a singer named Ben Taylor, whose music had touched hearts across the nation. Samuel knew this would be a difficult wish to fulfill. Ben Taylor was a huge star, always busy with concerts, tours, and media appearances. But Samuel had come too far to give up now. He made calls, sent emails, and reached out to every contact he could think of. After days of persistence, Samuel finally received a call from Ben Taylor's management. They had heard Liam's story and were moved. Ben Taylor himself had agreed to meet Liam. The meeting was set up at a small, private location away from the public eye. Samuel couldn't believe it was really happening. On the day of the meeting, Samuel dressed Liam in his best outfit, trying to make the day as special as possible. Liam, though weak, was excited beyond words. "Do you think he'll sing for me, Grandpa?" Liam asked with a small, hopeful smile. "I'm sure he will, buddy," Samuel replied, his heart full of emotion. When they arrived at the venue, Ben Taylor greeted them warmly. The singer, known for his down-to-earth nature, knelt beside Liam and took his hand. "Hey there, Liam," Ben said with a genuine smile. "I've heard a lot about you. It's an honor to meet you." Liam's face lit up, his eyes wide with amazement. For a moment, Samuel saw the joy that had been absent for so long. Ben spent the next hour with Liam, talking, laughing, and even playing a few of Liam's favorite songs on his guitar. Liam was in awe, and as the music filled the room, Samuel watched with a heart full of gratitude. Ben's kindness had given Liam another memory to cherish, one that Samuel knew would stay with him forever. As they said their goodbyes, Ben handed Liam an autographed guitar, a gift that left the boy speechless. "Thank you," Liam whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "This means the world to me." The ride home was quiet, but the happiness on Liam's face spoke volumes. Samuel felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had met a hero, and Liam had experienced something magical, despite the challenges of his condition. But the next wish was already on Liam's mind, and Samuel knew they had to keep moving forward. Liam's sixth wish was another reflection of his love for music. "I want to be a DJ for a day, Grandpa," he said with a shy smile. Samuel chuckled, imagining Liam behind a DJ booth, spinning records and controlling the crowd. Once again, Samuel reached out to his network of friends and family, trying to find a way to make this happen. And once again, people rallied behind Liam's dream. A local radio station caught wind of Liam's story and offered to host a private session for him. They would set up a full DJ booth just for Liam, allowing him to mix music, talk on the microphone, and even broadcast a small show to their listeners. Samuel was touched by the generosity of so many strangers willing to help make Liam's dreams come true. On the day of the DJ experience, Samuel wheeled Liam into the radio station. The staff greeted them with smiles, and Liam's eyes widened when he saw the DJ booth, filled with lights, buttons, and equipment. "This is awesome!" Liam exclaimed, his excitement palpable. The station's head DJ spent time showing Liam how to use the equipment, and within minutes, Liam was seated behind the booth, headphones on, ready to make his DJ debut. "All right, Liam," the DJ said with a grin. "You're in control now. Let's see what you've got." Liam, despite his fatigue, was fully immersed in the experience. He played his favorite songs, talked into the microphone, and even gave shout-outs to his friends and family. Samuel stood off to the side, watching his grandson with a mixture of pride and bittersweet joy. For a few hours, Liam wasn't a boy in the final stages of illness. He was a DJ, living out a dream, making music, and entertaining an audience. When the session ended, Liam was exhausted but smiling. "That was so much fun, Grandpa," he said as they left the station. "I felt like I was really in control, like I was making something happen." Samuel smiled and nodded, knowing that for Liam, the experience was more than just fun. It was empowering. It gave him a sense of control and accomplishment, something that had been taken away by his illness. As they returned home, Samuel couldn't help but think about how far they had come. They had fulfilled so many of Liam's wishes, creating memories that would last forever. But with each new experience, Samuel was also reminded of how limited their time was. Liam was growing weaker, and although his spirit remained bright, Samuel knew that their journey was nearing its end. The next wish on Liam's list was simple yet profound. He wanted to sleep under the stars. Samuel promised himself that they would make it happen. They had come too far to stop now, and no matter what, he would ensure that Liam's last wishes were fulfilled. As the days passed, Liam's condition became more fragile. Samuel could see it in the way Liam moved more slowly, in the way his voice had grown quieter, and in how much longer he slept. But even as his body weakened, Liam's spirit remained bright. Every day, he would remind Samuel of the wishes they still had left to fulfill. His next wish, though simple, carried a profound meaning. Liam wanted to sleep under the stars. "Grandpa," Liam said one evening, his voice soft but steady, "I've always wanted to sleep outside, where I can see the stars. Do you think we can do that next?" Samuel smiled, though his heart ached. He knew this was something they could easily do, but the significance of the request weighed on him. It was as if Liam wanted to connect with something larger than life itself, to feel the universe around him before his journey came to an end. The very next weekend, Samuel began making arrangements. Liam wasn't strong enough to travel far, so they decided to camp in the backyard. Samuel set up a tent, bought sleeping bags, and made sure they had everything they needed for a peaceful night under the stars. It wasn't about going on an adventure far from home. It was about creating a moment of tranquility and wonder for Liam. That evening, as the sun began to set, Samuel helped Liam outside, bundling him up in warm blankets. The night air was crisp but gentle, and the sky was clear, promising a perfect view of the stars. They settled down in the tent, with the flap open so they could look out at the night sky. As the first stars began to twinkle, Liam's eyes grew wide with amazement. "Look, Grandpa," he whispered. "It's so beautiful." Samuel lay beside him, looking up at the sky. It had been a long time since he had taken a moment to appreciate the stars, but tonight, they seemed brighter than ever. Liam, with his small frame wrapped in blankets, gazed up at the sky as if it held all the answers he had been searching for. "Do you think the stars are like people, Grandpa?" Liam asked quietly. "Like, maybe when someone we love is gone, they turn into a star to watch over us?" Samuel's throat tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "Maybe they are, buddy," he replied. "Maybe every star is someone looking down, making sure we're okay." Liam smiled at that thought, and for a while, they both remained silent, simply watching the stars flicker in the darkness. It was a peaceful moment, one filled with the quiet beauty of the night and the bond they shared. As the night grew darker, Liam's breathing slowed, and Samuel knew his grandson was drifting off to sleep. But before he closed his eyes, Liam reached out and took Samuel's hand. "Thank you, Grandpa," he whispered. "This is exactly what I wanted." Samuel squeezed his hand, feeling the weight of those words. He knew Liam didn't just mean the stars. He meant everything. Every wish, every moment they had shared on this journey had brought them closer, and for that, Samuel was endlessly grateful. Hours passed, and Samuel stayed awake, watching over Liam as he slept. The stars continued to shine above them, casting a soft glow over the world below. In that quiet, peaceful night, Samuel reflected on everything they had been through, From the trip to the beach to the fireworks, from meeting a celebrity to racing a go-kart, they had created a lifetime of memories in just a few short months. And now, with the stars as their companions, Samuel knew they were nearing the end of their journey. As the first light of dawn began to break, Samuel gently woke Liam. "It's morning, buddy," he said softly. Liam stirred, blinking up at the pale sky. "Did I miss the sunrise?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Samuel smiled. "No, you're just in time." Together, they watched as the sun slowly rose over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It was a new day, but Samuel knew their time was running short. Later that day, as they sat together in the living room, Liam was quiet. He had grown weaker since their night under the stars, and Samuel could see the toll the illness was taking. But there was still one wish left on Liam's list. Samuel hadn't asked him about it yet, but he knew it was coming. Liam, always thoughtful, seemed to be gathering his strength for this final wish. That evening, as Samuel was preparing dinner, Liam spoke up. "Grandpa," he said softly, "I know we've done a lot of amazing things, but there's one more thing I want." Samuel turned to him, listening carefully. "What is it, buddy?" he asked, his heart heavy with both hope and sorrow. Liam took a deep breath, his eyes full of the same determination he had shown from the beginning. "I want to leave something behind," he said, "something that shows people who I was. I don't want to be forgotten." Samuel felt a lump form in his throat. This wasn't a simple wish like flying in a helicopter or driving a race car. This was something deeper, something that went beyond just the two of them. "I don't want to just disappear, Grandpa," Liam continued. "I want to make a difference, even if I'm not here anymore." Samuel sat down beside him, taking his hand. "You won't be forgotten, Liam," he said gently. "I promise. We'll find a way to make sure your story lives on." Liam smiled, though it was clear he was exhausted. "Thanks, Grandpa," he whispered. "That's all I really want, to know that I mattered." That night, Samuel couldn't sleep. He sat by Liam's bedside, thinking about his grandson's final wish. How could he make sure that Liam's story would be remembered? How could he ensure that the boy who had shown so much courage and strength would leave a lasting impact on the world? Samuel didn't have all the answers yet, but he knew one thing for certain. He would honor Liam's wish, no matter what it took. As he sat there, watching Liam sleep peacefully, Samuel made a silent vow. He would make sure Liam's story was told. He would ensure that Liam's bravery, his kindness, and his love for life would continue to inspire others, long after he was gone. Liam's journey wasn't over yet, and neither was Samuel's. Together, they would find a way to fulfill this final wish. The days following Liam's request to leave a legacy passed in a blur. Samuel did everything he could to ensure his grandson's comfort, while grappling with the weight of Liam's final wish. It wasn't like the others, which were easy enough to arrange with the right calls or contacts. This was something far more profound. Liam wanted to be remembered, not just by his family, but by the world. As the sun set on another day, Samuel sat at the kitchen table, staring at the notepad where he had once carefully written down Liam's wishes. 9 had been fulfilled. 9 moments of joy, wonder, and happiness that they had shared. But now, with Liam's condition worsening, Samuel knew they were running out of time to fulfill the final one. His heart ached at the thought of what that would mean, but he wasn't ready to give up, not yet. That evening, Samuel sat by Liam's bedside, his mind racing as he held his grandson's hand. "I've been thinking, buddy," Samuel said softly. "You want to leave something behind, right? Something that will remind people of you." Liam nodded, though he was too tired to speak. "Well," Samuel continued, "I think we can do that, but we'll need to tell your story. Let people know about everything you've done, the wishes you've made, and the person you are." Liam's eyes fluttered open, and he smiled faintly. "Do you think people will care?" he whispered. Samuel's chest tightened at the question. "Of course they will," he said firmly. "Your story is something that can inspire others." People who are going through hard times, kids who might be scared, and families who need hope. You've been so brave, Liam, and that's something worth sharing. The next day, Samuel reached out to a local newspaper and a children's charity that worked with terminally ill kids. He explained Liam's story, his wishes, and the final request to leave a mark on the world. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The charity offered to help by creating a campaign in Liam's name, raising awareness for children battling similar illnesses and encouraging others to fulfill the wishes of those in need. The newspaper agreed to write a feature on Liam's journey, sharing his story with the world. When Samuel told Liam about the plans, he could see the pride in his grandson's eyes. "You're going to be a hero, buddy," Samuel said, tears welling up in his eyes. "Your story is going to help so many people." Liam smiled weakly, but there was a piece about him that hadn't been there before. "Thank you, Grandpa," he whispered. "That's all I wanted." Over the next few days, as the charity began working on the campaign and the newspaper prepared the feature, Samuel stayed by Liam's side. Every moment felt precious. Liam's body was failing, but his spirit remained strong. He talked about the stars, about the superheroes he loved, and about how much he had enjoyed the adventures they had shared. "It's been the best time, Grandpa," Liam said one afternoon, his voice soft but content. "I gotta do so many things I never thought I would." Samuel smiled through his tears. "I'm glad, buddy," he said, his voice breaking. "You deserve it all." But deep down, Samuel knew they were nearing the end. He could see it in the way Liam slept more and spoke less, in the way his small body seemed to grow more fragile with each passing hour. Still, there was one last thing to do, one final wish to fulfill. The charity arranged for a special ceremony in Liam's honor. They created a fund in his name, dedicated to fulfilling the wishes of other children with terminal illnesses. It was a way to ensure that Liam's legacy would live on, that his spirit would continue to touch lives long after he was gone. Samuel knew it was exactly what Liam had wanted. The day of the ceremony arrived, and Samuel wheeled Liam outside, wrapping him in blankets to keep him warm. The charity representatives and the newspaper team were there, along with close family and friends. It was a small gathering, but the impact of the moment was enormous. As they announced the creation of the Liam Walker Wish Fund, Samuel looked down at his grandson, who was too weak to speak, but whose eyes shone with pride. After the ceremony, Samuel sat beside Liam, holding his hand as the sun began to set. "You did it, buddy," Samuel said softly. "Your story is going to help so many people. You're a hero." Liam's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, he squeezed Samuel's hand. "I love you, Grandpa," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Thank you for everything." Tears streamed down Samuel's face as he leaned down and kissed Liam's forehead. "I love you too, Liam," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll never forget you. None of us will." Liam smiled faintly, and then with a peaceful sigh, he closed his eyes for the last time. The days that followed were filled with grief and heartache. Samuel felt the weight of the loss every moment, but he also felt a sense of peace knowing that Liam's wishes had been fulfilled. The charity's campaign gained traction, and soon, Liam's story was being shared far and wide. Donations poured in, helping other children experience the same joy that Liam had in his final months. In the years that followed, the Liam Walker Wish Fund grew into something far larger than Samuel had ever imagined. Families from all over the country reached out, sharing their gratitude and their own stories of hope and courage. Liam's legacy lived on, not just through the fund, but in the hearts of everyone who had been touched by his story. As for Samuel, he spent his days cherishing the memories he had made with his grandson. He often found himself gazing up at the stars, remembering the night they had spent under the sky, talking about life and the universe. And every time he saw a shooting star or a particularly bright one twinkling in the distance, he couldn't help but think of Liam. In the end, Liam had been right. The stars really were like people, watching over those they loved even after they were gone. But as much as the world had learned to love and remember Liam, Samuel knew one thing for sure. The world hadn't just been deprived of knowing Liam, the boy with big dreams and a kind heart. The world had been deprived of the great man he was destined to become. His potential, his light, his unyielding spirit. Those were things the world would never fully grasp. Yet, through the legacy he left behind, Liam's story continued to inspire countless others, reminding them of the power of love, hope, and the importance of living fully, no matter how short the time may be. Enjoy the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next thrilling episode. See you in our next video. Take care.